Welcome to this morning's Facebook Live session where we're going to be talking about something that's currently affecting us all, and that's the cost of living crisis. So whether it's our weekly food shop, the cost of the fuel we put in our car, or of course rising energy bills, we're all being hit in the pocket and we're having to make some changes as a result. So like I said, that's what we're here to talk about today is energy bills. I'm sure we've all noticed our bills have got more expensive in recent months. And I think as we get to the winter months, things are not going to get any easier. So the new price cap came into force earlier this week, which limits the unit price paid for electricity and gas. So I know there's lots of confusion about the cap, but I guess what it boils down to is it means that the annual bill for your typical household will be held at around £2,500 for the next 2 years. But we'll talk a little bit more about that during today's session. So it all feels a bit gloomy at the moment, and I've promised we'll try and not make it too depressing today. So, but we're keen to highlight the fact that there is a lot of support there out for people, and I'm delighted to be joined by two people who are sort of living the energy crisis at the moment and supporting people. Both our tenants and sort of people across the country as well. So first up, he'll be a familiar face to many Wrekin tenants. We have Dan from our Money Matters team. So Dan is Wrekin's debt and energy manager. And personally, I've seen firsthand the incredible work Dan and the rest of the team do supporting people who are struggling with their finances. And since April this year, they've dealt with over 600 pleas for help, which is incredible, and they've secured an amazing 1.1 million in extra income for Wrekin tenants, which is incredible. And I'm also delighted to be joined by Matt Baker, who joins us from the energy supplier OVO. Matt is the Vulnerability Officer with OVO, so he is at the thick of it, supporting customers who are struggling with their energy bills. So we're going to talk today not only about the support is available to Wrekin tenants, but some of the practical tips that everyone can follow to reduce their outgoings and boost their income. So we're going to cover everything from how to reduce your energy use, highlight some of the financial support packages that everyone can take advantage of, and please feel free to submit your questions during our Facebook Live today, and I'm sure Matt and Dan will do their best to answer them. So first, I think we'll start with you, Matt, obviously as our esteemed guest today. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of OVO and particularly your role with the team?
Yeah. Hi everybody. Thanks, Gareth. Yeah, so I work for OVO Energy. OVO Energy was formed in 2009, and they kind of came into the energy industry to really make a difference around Plan Zero and zero carbon, and to really kind of change the market. Up until recently, you've probably seen in the news, a lot of suppliers have actually gone out of business, but at a certain point around 2 years ago, we had over 60 odd suppliers in the industry. You have some of what are called the big six, and OVO came in as I say in 2009, really kind of to change the way that we look at technology, carbon emissions, and really have a strategy which we call our Plan Zero to change the industry. So OVO then took over SSE, which is a more common supplier that was on our market, and so now we have just over 4.5 million customers. And my job in OVO is to look after our vulnerable customers. So I have a small team, but the area that I look after is to really make sure that we make life easier for our customers, especially our most vulnerable customers, and that we're recognizing, recording what they're telling us, what they say to us, and we link in to what's a very important part, which we'll talk about a little bit more, is the priority services register. So that we know that if there are any health or disabilities, that we know about it for various reasons, which I'll go into later on. As part of my team, we really look at the whole end-to-end of the business, the energy business, making sure that we have a very clear strategy, that we're engaging and talking to a lot of people right across the business. So that could be when you're moving home, when you're looking to pay your bill, when you need some advice around energy efficiency, all of the things that we're going to talk about on this this Q&A session, and we want to make sure we educate our customers in various areas, plus our own people, so you can have a good conversation and get the support you need. Make sure that we work with as many partners and charities as possible, because we want to gain insight into what goes on in people's lives, because the more that we know, the more that we can then help, and make sure that we have tools, the right tools, the right let's say the toolkit there to help customers pay their bills, which we're going to talk about today. So yeah, my role, I'm very passionate about vulnerability and helping customers. It's such an important part of energy, and we're in a cost of living crisis. So it's not just energy bills that people are struggling with. There's many other bills, but it's making sure that we can talk to you about everything that's going on in your lives, to then have some bespoke solutions for you, and to make sure that the worst thing you can do is not talk to your energy supplier. And I really want to emphasize that as we go through this session, around how important it is to engage. So yeah, so there's lots going on with OVO Energy. A lot of the advice and support we'll talk about is for all suppliers. It's the industry, but I'll pull out some specific things as we go through that OVO Energy are doing, just to give you some what is out there to help you.
That's brilliant, Matt. Thanks for that. And I know, Dan, you'll be a familiar face to many of our followers here on Facebook. But can you just give us a little bit of an oversight of your role here at Wrekin?
Yeah, sure. So I work within our Money Matters team, and I look after sort of debt advice and sort of provide assistance on energy advice as well. So we've, as a lot of people know, we shout about Wrekin debt advice quite a lot, but that's been sort of within the Wrekin group since September 2019, and energy, as the whole crisis has come, we've sort of tried to act quickly to make sure that we've got support within the team to help tenants if they're struggling.
That's great, Dan. So I guess it must there's quite a high demand for both of your services at the moment. Can you give us a little bit of a picture of just how busy you guys are at the moment?
Very busy, yeah, and I think so much has changed, and so much has changed very quickly, especially around the price and the price cap, but also the whole cost of living in preparation, because we get a lot of information ahead of time now, and people like Martin Lewis have been talking a lot, making us all aware of what prices could look like, and then that impacts people in different ways depending on how you pay for your energy. So at the moment, lots of people that pay by direct debit are going through the experience of a review or a reassessment, based on making sure that they're paying enough. There's lots of government interventions and support that's all kicking in as well. I think you said, Gareth, the 1st of October was quite a key date. One, for the prices, and two, for the £400 rebate that all households are getting, and for people to understand that. And people are very anxious and worried about energy, and a lot of it can be quite complicated. So our people are taking lots of calls, some of them just simple questions, but more from customers who are worried, anxious, and moving into that crisis area, that they need help and support with their bills. And we're only starting to come into winter. This is a time where we're usually very busy with calls that can move around when people turn the heating on, that things maybe don't work, and they need some help and advice on appliances, and also then the whole coming into the winter side of things, in preparation. So yeah, it's very, very busy at the moment, across our call centres.
And how about you, Dan?
It's pretty much the same. So I suppose with all the announcements that have come in, the cost of living announcements, and when the payments are being made, that sort of everyone's thinking of when they're going to happen. But also we're dealing with a lot of mental health issues, actually. So people that are quite anxious about all the announcements that they're hearing. And I suppose we've been supporting people as best as we can to try and help them sort of review their whole sort of finances to ensure that there is affordability. And I do say that lightly because a lot of people are going to struggle majorly, but yeah, helping people look at things, reassess if they're eligible for any other schemes. I don't know, for example, let's say Severn Trent Water's Big Difference scheme, to help them get a discount that way to then allow them to maximise their income in other ways. So yeah, the whole three of the teams, the welfare benefits advisors, tenancy sustainment officers, and debt advisors, they're just inundated with queries at the moment.
Wow, so an incredibly sort of busy time for both you guys, and I know we touched upon this earlier, the energy price guarantee. There's a lot of confusion out there about what it means. So so what is that £2,500 sort of energy price guarantee? Does that mean that'll be the cap for everyone's bills, or can you explain a little bit more about it?
So yeah, so it will limit the energy bill for a typical household. I think it's the word typical and household for the 2,500. So the price per unit is capped, like we had the price cap. So if you're on a standard variable tariff, that price is set in stone. The 2,500 can be a bit misleading because you could use less than that and you could still use more than that depending on your consumption. So the most important thing to still focus on is safely reducing your consumption as well. So you do become that typical household. And there's lots of hints and tips I think me and Daniel are going to talk through around that area. But it gives you a little bit of comfort that the price is fixed for the next 2 years at this particular price tariff. So if you can get your energy consumption under control, and then that will help with a lot of things where you can budget around. So I think that the typical household, it's under people understanding, am I a typical household, and it's going in and looking at a lot of your consumption and your bills to understand how much you've used, where the prices have gone up. Prices have still risen by nearly 100% in the last 12 months. So we mustn't forget that. So it is still a massive increase. It could have been a lot worse, and I think that's what everyone was worried about, based on before the government intervened. So we've just still got to focus on a lot of things to help people reduce their consumption safely. The last thing that we want people to do, me and Daniel were chatting earlier, is around self-disconnection and self-rationing. And if that happens, that's not what we want, and we've got to make people reduce their consumption safely, and still make sure that they have heating and they can cook through the winter. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But yeah, it's good news in the sense it could have been a lot worse, but there's still been a big increase, and we've still got to help and support customers through this.
And obviously, it is a little bit of welcome news compared to what we were. The talk was, bills going up to maybe £6,000 or more. Do you both think this goes far enough, or do you think there's more support that's needed?
I think more support is needed. Yeah, Dan, you'll probably agree. Yeah, it does help because it could have been a lot worse. But we've got to focus on what help there is out there, and there is lots of money. There's lots of grants. There's lots of initiatives that are happening right across the country in certain areas that are linked to a lot of the things the government have announced. And one thing in particular is warm home discount, which we'll touch on again in a minute. So yeah, a lot more could still have been done, but we've got to focus on what we can manage, what's in our control, I think, which is the important thing. And anyone that might have changed tariffs, there weren't many around, but they will automatically move back to this without any fees or anything of that nature, especially within OVO. So everybody is on the cheapest possible tariff at this point in time. If things change, and we hope things might change across the world, the things that are influencing the prices, that might help us within this 2-year period. There's a lot of unknowns though, so in that particular space. But there's more that we can do ourselves, I think, to change some of our behaviours, to help as well as the price being now fixed at this rate.
That's great. Cheers, Matt. And obviously, we hear lots of stories in the news now about energy providers making record profits. Surely, why are they charging so much still when we're hearing these record profits? Surely they need to make so much money.
Yeah, it's quite a very topical question because it's come up quite a lot of the time, and it's understanding whether your energy supplier is a supplier or a generator of energy. So OVO is just an energy supplier. So we're not making any profits. We don't generate electricity or produce gas. So the difference with that is, like, unlike the generators, we're not benefiting from any increase in energy prices when you then sell it on and make profits on that. I think OVO is the only major UK energy company that works this way, as opposed to some of the other big suppliers across the UK. When we were launched in 2009, we were founded by energy customers who decided there was a different way and to be a different energy company. And that was, as I said at the start, making energy cheaper, greener, and more simpler for everybody. And we continue in that way. And we're very transparent about that. Our CEO, Stephen Fitzpatrick, has talked quite a lot more recently, especially with the government and with Martin Lewis, again, trying to champion and have a bit of a voice against the government to make some decisions. And we provided a very clear 10-point plan of what we think the energy industry needs to do to make it simpler and cheaper and greener for everybody. We can't forget the green side of things. It's very difficult in this current time of cost of living, but we've got to continue to think about zero carbon as well, and how we make that more affordable and more widespread. So the market is broken in many ways, if I'm honest, and we're still campaigning to make the energy system work for everybody, and we'll continue to do that. I won't go into too much of the political side of things, but in the recent Labour conference, they mentioned an energy company that generates, and that's the key issue. That's where the profits are being made, and is the companies that are generating and then selling on the energy into the industry.
Wow. And so and do you feel that as a supplier, do you feel your voice is being heard by government at the moment?
I think it is, yeah. I think with the help of again Martin Lewis and who does have a very big voice. Likewise to some of the other charities we work closely with Step Change as an example, the Money Advice Trust, and NEA, National Energy Action. They've got quite big voices, and we've been campaigning with these charities and just wider around fuel poverty for a long time. And now within a cost of living crisis, it's probably elevated the whole subject matter, which has been great for someone like me, who is trying to do as much as we can to help vulnerable customers and get their voices heard, and making people understand the journey that certain customers have to go through with what they may be living with can be very different. So it's giving us an opportunity to be able to hold our customers' hands a little bit more and get them through the journey, and campaign as loud as we can, and we'll continue to do so. Likewise with charities like yourself and other charities that need people to focus on what fuel poverty really means, and how many people now across the UK have moved into fuel poverty based on what disposable income is people have left.
Oh, that's a really good answer. That thank you for that, Matt. And I guess this is a question for both of you. Maybe we could start with Dan about what support can you give either tenants or customers now who are struggling with their energy bills at the moment. So if you want to start with that one, Dan.
Yeah. So I suppose have conversations with your housing executive, call our contact centre, call the Money Matters team, and we'll pick up the referrals. We'll have a little look. I think the most important thing is we have a bit of a deep dive into what's going on in your life and into your situation. Try and understand what's what the issue is, and then look at sort of options that are available, be that grants, be that crisis funding, low cost measures, a conversation with your supplier. Again, me and Matt were talking earlier. I suppose it's reacting really quickly to seeing if you see a crisis situation looming, then have that conversation sooner rather than later. I think so. So there's such a stigma about talking about money, I think, still, and it is really difficult. We get that, but it's much easier to sort of firefight straight away and have that early intervention, have the conversations, and picking up the calls to, for example, OVO, and speaking to their teams and seeing what assistance they can give. But yeah, there's also the supporters we offer at the moment, sort of maximising income, doing budgeting, debt advice, etc. So yeah.
Brilliant. That's great, Dan. And how about what support are OVO offering customers at the moment, Matt?
Yeah. So a lot of support that we're offering. We launched our winter support scheme, customer support package, over £50 million worth of support within that package, and that was really broken down into four key pillars. The first one is depending on how you pay for your bills. If you're not prepayment, I'll come on to prepayment meters in a minute, but if you're paying by direct debit or paying as the bill comes in, the most important thing is to talk to us, and that's, I'll emphasize that through this whole session, is engage and talk to your energy supplier. Talk to us at OVO. That could be digitally, as Dan said. Sometimes it can be quite a difficult conversation to talk about your money, where your money's going, how you spend your money, what money you've got left, and prioritizing what's important to you in your life. And as an energy supplier, we will listen and understand all of that. We understand people ourselves are all going through this as well, with different levels of needs and urgencies, because everyone's lives are very different. But talk to your energy supplier, because they are there to really help and listen. And if you've had a direct debit increase, let's just say, for an example, it doesn't mean you have to pay that increase if you can't afford it. We just need to know that you can't afford it and what can you afford. And telling us about that and having that conversation will lead on to how we then can help you with your direct debit, what you need to pay. And alongside that will be a lot of then the energy efficiency side of things, of how we need to help you to reduce your consumption accordingly to maybe something that's safe. And if you are on direct debit, your direct debit is then adequate to cover your consumption. Because what we don't want people to do is to build up debt. But we understand that's going to happen in the current climate. And we've got to get through the winter, and then maybe, as I say, when we go through the summer and people are generally using less, especially gas, it's a time to kind of recover again. So, and the same if your bill comes in, whether it's a monthly bill or a quarterly bill, you phone and tell us that you're going to have to pay that bill maybe over a few weeks or over a period of time, and we can talk about that. The most important thing is that we know that that's what you want to do, and then we can make the necessary arrangements on our systems. So a lot of help and support just with regards to your current bill or the bills that you're paying. For prepayment customers, again, and prepayment customers, it's probably my biggest worry through the winter, because of obviously the way that you're paying as you go, and if you can't afford to charge your meter, it's dreadful. And I get sleepless nights thinking of what more can we do for our prepayment customers, and how can we be aware that they might be self-disconnecting or not charging. So we're increasing the emergency credit facility on our meters by 200%, so that's going up. And we're also removing, if you do have a debt on your meter, we're removing the recovery of that debt for 6 months as well. So when you purchase any credit, it's just going to go towards your usage. So that will help. And we, again, there's lots of other, if you phone and talk to us, there's other solutions with vouchers and discretionary credit, which we call for those emergencies that go over and above the emergency credit. And there are lots of charities and what we call industry initiatives, which are schemes, whether they're linked to citizens advice, debt charities and trusts, that again will help you with emergency credit vouchers for prepayment customers. So a lot for that. We're also focusing a lot on products and services as well. So that could be simple things like an electric throw, which actually might help certain customers, depending on again your circumstances of your heating. Just to use them, they are very, very cheap to use. An electric blanket, electric throw, and that could avoid you putting the heating on, or a little bit less in the evenings, or as a family, whether you're sitting on the sofa, that you can all kind of have a bit of family time and go under the throw just to kind of keep you warm. And also stuff around thermostats and smart meters and your boiler and getting boilers serviced for free, getting them checked. There are certain schemes, again, that Dan's probably very much aware of how we can provide white goods for free. So that's another area. We're also doing, through our Winter Support Hardship Fund, debt relief grants. So again, for eligible customers, if you're really struggling, we can remove that debt to make sure then that you're on a payment plan going forward, because everything has got on top of people, not just a debt with your energy company, but there could be other debts associated with what's going on in your life. So sometimes just to remove that debt for somebody, to give them that peace of mind so they can focus on moving forward, is a massive help. And the fourth pillar is our partnerships and charities. We're fundamentally an energy supplier, so we are experts in providing advice around energy, and we've trained our staff. We've got new staff in to really help with additional support, but sometimes charities are the experts, and that could be things around income maximization, or if it's a health side of things, then the various charities we know that are experts in cancer or in arthritis, mental health side of things. So we've just trained our staff with the Samaritans, because sadly a lot of our calls now, and I'll bring some examples in a minute, are very sad, very upsetting, and very difficult conversations. And we have to focus on how our staff then manage those calls and manage the customers. So we've got new training that we've just finished rolling out, working with the Samaritans. So some of those third-party charities that we can signpost customers to get better advice around specific things, that could be step change, national deadline. So that whole package, we've just launched that at the same time. So on our website, there's a lot more information that I've just talked about. You can fill in a referral form, so we can understand eligibility and who's the best person to speak to, what's the best advice for you in your circumstances. So there's lots out there, and other suppliers. And Daniel can probably guide you and signpost you a little bit for other suppliers. There's a lot of help out there across the industry. We know that we've got to do this, and we've probably got to do more as well. We'll continue to look at stuff that's happening. Another partnership we've just kind of gone in started is with the Trussell Trust as well, because the food banks and people having to make decisions around heating and eating, we hear that a lot, and to have a little bit of visibility in communities is important. And if you're going to your food bank, then I think it kind of goes hand in hand, that you can get some advice then as well about some of the things we're talking about now, and some real good hints and tips around energy efficiency again, and in that area, so people don't have to make that decision around heating and eating. You can do both, but it does mean making some changes to our lives and our behaviours to do that safely.
Wow, so an incredible sort of amount of support out there for everyone, and I guess the message is basically don't bury your head in the sand, get in touch early. The earlier people get in touch, the more help that's available. And what we'll do in the comments box, we put together a guide of the various support packages available with all energy suppliers. So we'll drop that in the chat shortly. So that's available to everyone. I'm pleased to say we've had our first questions through. So first one, I guess we touched upon this earlier, but it says, what if my energy supplier provider has gone bust and I don't have the time to get in touch with them? Is there anything Wrekin can do on a tenant's behalf? So is there any support available, Dan?
Yeah, we can help them. Obviously, we would need their authorization to speak to their supplier because of GDPR. But if the supplier's gone bust, they don't really need to do anything because they'll be assigned a new supplier. I'm right in saying, on Matt, and everything will just carry over, how they paid and so on, their end of readings. So there's nothing they need to do. It all happens automatically. But if anyone's feeling anxious and feels as if they need a bit of handhold in making them calls, then by all means, we can try and support with that.
Brilliant. That's great. Thanks for that, Dan. And we've had a second question come through from Lois. So thank you, Lois. It says, I can't have a smart meter as I don't get good enough mobile signal where I live. Have you got any advice on how I can keep track of how much energy I'm using?
Yeah. There are other devices that you can look and monitor what your consumption is. Obviously, with a smart meter, the in-house display that you get with that is a fantastic tool to look at what you're using, and also the stuff that's available digitally online. Again, you can see your usage down to each day. So there are other alternatives that you can use. We hope the technology behind smart meters is catching up with itself in that everyone will be able to have a smart meter. Although the date goes back a little bit more, they are getting round with the different versions that are coming through for smart meters. So hopefully, a smart meter really does help you monitor your consumption. But there are other devices. We can provide some. I'll provide some examples back through to you to some alternatives, just so you can measure certain things like the kettle or like having an electric heater that you might turn on. What that actually costs, because we wouldn't want to advise is maybe using alternatives that maybe are costing you more than actually your heating. So it's an important thing to know how much things cost. The Energy Saving Trust is a fantastic website, again, to get lots of hints and tips, and it will give you some typical uses of appliances, whether that's boiling your kettle, a simple thing to the washing machine and your dishwasher, which are the biggies that consume a lot of electricity. But it's the hints and tips that are available from unplugging things and not leaving things on standby, albeit it might seem like pence, but those pence will really add up through the days, through the weeks, through the months. So it does all help.
That's great, guys. Thank you very much. And I know you touched upon this earlier, Matt, but if a customer contacts you and says, there's no way I can pay my bill, I simply can't afford it, will they be cut off? No.
Not like we said, the most important thing is to speak to us. Through the winter, we will not disconnect any customers. If you're calling us and telling us you can't pay, then we will work out the best solution for you to pay for your bill and how much you can afford, and that will be a process and a conversation that as I've said through this, to understand what's going on in your life, so you might need additional support for other bills as well, not just your energy bill. And this is a cost of living crisis, albeit energy bills are significantly higher than they were this time last year. It's the same when we look at other things around us when it comes to food. Fuel, petrol, all of these things that are increasing. We won't disconnect. We just need to talk to you at OVO. and give you that guidance and support, and make sure all of the things that I've just talked about that you could be eligible for, that you get, and we help you. So that's the key thing to all of this, that we support and help you, not disconnect you, and send people round and knocking on your door and all of those kind of things, which we would not do if you pick up the phone and speak to us. So that's the key thing.
I guess that's massively reassuring for people, isn't it? Because obviously, not being able to pay your electricity and gas is a massive worry. So knowing that, if you get in touch, engage early, you're not going to cut people's supply off. You will work with them to find a solution, which is massively reassuring. And I guess both of you are dealing with people who are struggling on a daily basis. And I guess, Dan, you must come across hundreds of stories and of people who are in real hardship. I mean, can you give us examples of the type of stories that are coming your way? And I guess how does it make you feel when these people are coming to you with desperate for help?
Yeah, there's lots of scenarios, but one that sort of springs to mind. It was someone that didn't really have a real grasp on what it was that they had coming in and what they had going out. So it was about sort of, I think, getting them to stop for a second. Their mental health was really seriously impacted by sort of the chaos of their finances, and us going in and trying to help them sort of look at it in a manageable way. So us evaluating their income and then putting a bit of an income and expenditure together. And then presenting them with some options of tackling their debt problem. It was debts. We did that. They give them their option, and they decide what they want to do, and then we help facilitate that. And say they can see the wood for the trees afterwards, because things were a bit more manageable. Like they felt, I don't know, in control almost, because everything was easy to manage. It is difficult, because once we sorted everything, then with the way sort of the cost of living is at the moment, by the time they paid everything, they didn't have a lot left. But I'd say a lot of people are in that situation at the moment, where most of their income is taken up by paying for all bills and putting food on the table and so on. But there's also some people that are really, really struggling to get by. As you know, I'm a bit of a massive advocate for a review of universal credit. I thought I'd get that in today. The uplift, I don't think it's ever going to be taken away, especially with the price of everything going up, especially food as well. But it's hard. It really is heartbreaking. Sometimes it really does impact you at night, like trying to get to sleep, and you're thinking, what else could have I done today with that case? Like, what could have I done different? Is there anything I could have done better? Is there any other advice I could have given them? We as money advisors don't switch off. Sometimes I think it's we do this job because we care. I am worried that our stack of resolutions isn't going to be as full as it once was. But what I would say is, do contact us, and we will endeavour to support as much as we can to try and sort things. And I think Matt has fantastic support at OVO and offer. I just hope that other companies sort of follow suit as well, because I think what you guys have done is amazing, especially like some of the prepaid stuff, like removing the debt charge, because I know sometimes people can go up and top up a tenner, and then in a couple of hours it's gone. So yeah,
it is. Just to build on that, I mean, it is heartbreaking. Some of the, I listen to quite a lot of our calls just to kind of get a feel of what customers are saying, because it's important that we understand what they are talking to us about. and it is heartbreaking. It's people just don't know what to do, where to turn. And in some ways it's good that they are talking to us, but the impacts that you can see on whether it's on mental health or just the anxiety and worry for people, and we have to have some solutions for customers. We can't just say, sorry, I can't help you, cheerio. I mean, and that would be awful. We pride ourselves on customer service, so you've got to offer solutions for customers. And we've got a lot of solutions there now, and they can be tailored based on. And I keep going back to it, but we can't help people unless we know what's going on in their lives, and everyone is different. I don't like to make assumptions that people living with a certain, whether it's a health, mental health, disability, are all the same, because they're not. Everyone has different caring networks, family, friends. The saddest thing, and we had an example recently of people that don't have family or friends, who are very lonely and will sit there and not turn the heating on, or not call, or not talk. And we had a very sad story, but actually a very happy ending, where one of our field force went round to a property. And actually, when you're in a property, you can see a lot more. You can pick up things over the phone of what people are saying, but when you're in somebody's home, and you can see there's no food in the cupboards, no heating on. The boiler was, in this particular example, was disconnected, and the engineer, the field rep, obviously did all of the things that we could do, plus engaged social services, but also went to the local shop and actually got milk, bread, and then signpost them onto all of the various charities that can help. So sometimes it just needs that one person to intervene and come into someone's life to make a big difference, and that could be from a phone call to OVO, or someone coming into your house that is a stranger at that point, but because of what they've been trained and taught, and what they're looking to try and do, ends up helping you and changing. I hope that visit will change that person's life in getting. I think we're getting a new cooker as well, because we went back, as I did when we were talking earlier, Dan. It's not just advice on bills. There are grants available for all energy efficiency measures, for white goods, for cookers, for boilers. If your boiler's broken and needs fixing, there are grants and organisations that are out there to help, and there are millions of pounds for warm home discount. We spend millions because it's a regulatory agreement that we have to invest in various energy efficiency advice, but also the debt side of things as well. So it's not just, if you do get warm home discount, there's £150 coming, but there's lots of other things available as well for you. So yeah, and it's going to get, our phone calls, I know, are going to get tougher and harder as it gets colder. So yeah, there's too many stories, as Daniel said, but I'm hoping with all the stories we hear, there's going to be a lot more kind of solutions and to help customers.
And I guess Dan touched upon, it's difficult to switch off when you hear these stories on a daily basis. But I guess the story you've just mentioned there, Matt, when you make that breakthrough and you realise you've made a difference to someone's life, it must be sort of rewarding as well.
That is as sad as everything is in the current climate. When you do have a success story, we had another one. We partnered with Income Max for income maximisation, and OVO customer. It took 6 months, but they recovered £33,000 of unclaimed benefits for this one customer. Now that's pretty much life changing. But that's again through coming to us, and you wouldn't think to talk to OVO about what benefits you're on, but then actually being signposted to a company like Income Max, who then spend that time and effort to on an individual basis to find out again more about you, what benefits you might have been entitled to that you haven't claimed. The government don't do this for you or tell you about it. So that's a fantastic success story, for that. But there are so many rewarding elements to this, and sadly, You don't hear a lot of the positive stuff that happens behind. It's great. I've got an opportunity to chat to you today to talk about this subject. But you will probably read more negative stuff around energy suppliers, not necessarily some of the good stuff, but there's still a balance to have, because we've got to focus on the costs and the industry and how broken it is still and to fix a lot of areas to help the masses with their energy.
That's brilliant. No, thank you both. And Dan, you mentioned the £20 universal credit uplift there. I mean, how big of a difference would that make to sort of the customers and Wrekin tenants you are supporting?
I think it would make a massive difference. As Matt said earlier, we're all hit by this as well, like the food costs, all in different ways. But like the weekly shop, I've noticed how much it's gone up by, and to someone that's on UC that's unable to work at the moment for a multitude of reasons, like that would make a massive difference to their lives. And I really do think it needs to be reconsidered, but who knows what's going to happen. Everything's going up, and state benefits staying at a certain point, and then the threshold for people are in lower quartile of incomes and so on, and they're not being helped either. So it's hopefully there is a reevaluation. We just see, but I suppose as well, again, it's all dreary what we're saying, but adding a bit of another good news story as well. Matt was talking about income max, but Kerry T, one of our welfare benefits advisors the other day, helped a couple get a claim as a retirement benefit, backdated around about £8,000. So that was a massive success, and the couple were over the moon. So,
I mean, it's really, really great to hear those stories, and it just shows you, doesn't it, by getting in touch early, by engaging with you guys, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and there is support available. So whether you're an OVO customer or a Wrekin tenant, I just encourage everyone to get in touch with these guys, because they're doing some incredible work, and there is help there for you. They will help you, they will hold your hand through the process, and they do some incredible work. So I'd encourage everyone to get in touch. And I mean, we've talked about the support available, but I mean, there's lots of sort of government support available as well, isn't there? We've talked about the £400 energy discount and other things. Can you give us maybe an overview of the sort of the government support that's available out there for people?
So sorry, go on, Matt.
I'll talk about the £400. I'll let you know how it's working with OVO. It might change with suppliers. But October is the first month, so all customers, if you have electricity on your electricity, will get £400, and that's being split at £66 a month and £77 on the final month. If you pay by direct debit, that's going straight into your bank account, just following when your direct debit payment comes in. If you pay on receipt of bill, a credit will be put onto your account, and if you're a prepayment customer, if it's a smart prepayment meter, it'll be picked up, or if it's a traditional prepayment meter, a voucher is sent out to you. So that started now, so people should start receiving the first £66, and that will go through to March, and hopefully that will help. There are many other loans or grants depending on your circumstance. I think the government have talked about, and payments have started. Best is to check the government website on those particular schemes, and if you're eligible. But you would have received some of those automatically as part of what benefits you're on. And there are other grants, as I said, for OVO. When talking to us, if you're eligible for certain hardship funds and debt relief, then that's on an individual case-by-case basis that we will look to try and help you. Everyone gets the £400.
That's great news. Is there anything you'd like to add, Dan, to that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest questions that's coming into the team at the moment, people are confused of what it's for. As Matt has said, it's for electric, and depending on how you pay, is dependent on how you get. So obviously your monthly direct debit, some suppliers are crediting it to people's bank accounts, some suppliers are crediting it to people's accounts. And then smart prepayment, as Matt said, OVO allows that onto people's meters. Again, it's different, but your traditional prepayment meters. So if you've got the old style, then there's a lot of people that are very anxious about opening the post. So I just wanted to say today and make it very clear that if you do get any letters from your energy supplier, that could be your vouchers to top up. So try and empower yourself to open that post. Again, if you need any support, then you're more than welcome to contact us. But yeah, we'll put a list after this today, and there'll be a link as to where you can see what your supplier is actually how they're going to pay the £400.
Oh, that's great advice, guys, because I know there's been lots of confusion about how that £400 will be paid. So it's great to hear how that's happening. And I guess the advice previously, before the energy price guarantee came in, was to not switch energy suppliers at the moment. Is that still the case?
Yeah. Short answer is no. Everyone is going to be on the cheapest tariff, which is the energy price guarantee. So that might change if things again across the world and climate change with prices. Because if prices come down, then there might be an opportunity of some fixed deals. But at the moment, you're best to stay with who you are and really focus on some of the other things we've talked about, which is really the energy efficiency side of things, to try and influence what your bills are.
That's brilliant. No, that's good advice for everyone. And I know, Matt, this was a point you were keen to raise earlier around it's about sort of reducing energy consumption as well is equally as important. So what sort of simple measures can people take now to reduce their energy use?
So I think it's people's behaviours, and that could be whether you're living alone or a family. And as I say, I'm not an expert in energy efficiency advice, but the Energy Saving Trust website has some very, very good hints and tips. And that could be simple things in just your day-to-day routines of changing things. I know I talked about, and it can be difficult because I tell my children to unplug things, but I'm sometimes the worst person in not doing things myself. But that might be a couple of pence through the night, but that couple of pence makes a big difference. Turning your thermostat down to a temperature by 1 or 2 degrees is going to save you. If there's rooms you're not in, I think a question that came in about turning the radiators down a little bit as well as a thermostat. But if you're not in a room at all, then turn that radiator off altogether. If you don't want to if you're not using that room, so don't heat rooms unnecessarily. It's important to kind of keep constant temperatures, because one of the biggest causes of an influenza is moving from a hot to a cold environment. So again, you don't want to bring on any unnecessary health conditions by going from a very hot room into a very cold room. And so that's why it's important to kind of keep a bit of a constant temperature. But I advise anyone to really go on to a website. Energy Saving Trust, as I say, is a very good one. There's lots of others to get some proper advice on appliances, on what you're using in your home, so you can make it a little bit more personal. Smart meters, obviously, does give you the information to look at your appliances on an individual basis of what's using it, and you can see how much it's costing you, and then you can budget a little bit more with a smart meter, and other smart technology with thermostats as well. The smart thermostat that we do, again, will help. So there's lots of innovation and technology as well. If you're into that kind of stuff and really want to kind of be a bit of an energy geek, so to speak, you can really get into it, and you can manage stuff over apps and things like that. I know that's not for everybody, but if you are that way inclined and you've got access on your phone to apps, then again, there are various apps out there that can help you. So it's all very personal. I think you've got to, as I've said a few times, we don't want people self-rationing and self-disconnecting. And if you phone us, then we want to make sure people remain healthy and warm and safe through the winter. And that's why that support package is there, to make sure people do that and keep safe and warm, and just tell us how they need to pay their bill, when they need to pay their bill, or how much their direct debit is, and to have that conversation with us. That's the key thing from this.
That's brilliant. No, that's great, Matt. And I don't think we've got any more questions that have come through. I'm just double checking. It doesn't look like it. So first, Dan, before we, I guess, finish up, this is for sort of Wrekin tenants then. So if they're struggling, how do they get in touch with you guys?
So they can have a conversation with their housing officer, retirement living coordinator. They can make referrals through to the team. They can contact us via telephone. So you've got the welfare benefits advisors there on 01952 217 234. The tenancy sustainment officers on 01952 217 283, or Wrekin debt advice on 01952 217 251. Or they can email us. All the details are on the Wrekin website. But yeah, we'll help as much as we can. As I say, we're always very eager to find a solution to anyone's problems. But yeah, there's lots of support on the website. I know the marketing team have been great in helping us put some videos together to help with low cost measures. And as Matt had said, you got the information on the Energy Saving Trust website, which is absolutely fantastic. National Energy Action as well, they've also got some really great resources. But again, it's early engagement. So if you spot any sort of signs where you feel as if there's going to be pressures, then please get in contact with us, and we'll help as much as we can.
Fantastic. And we have a really good working relationship, don't we, with the Marches Energy Agency, and they do sort of like an energy MOT, don't they, around your house? Can you tell us a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, sure. So Marches will get in contact. They'll ask you a range of questions about your property, and the MOT, so obviously red, amber, green. It will, depending on how you answer those questions, it will sort of indicate if there's areas where you might be able to make small changes, and then obviously you've got serious changes and so on. But yeah, we work very closely with Marches. They're absolutely fantastic organisation. So if we can help with any referrals, if you need that, if you've not got access to some means or telephone, then get in touch, and we can also contact them.
That's brilliant. And what we'll do on this chat as well, we'll pop the link in on the Marches website where you can register for a home energy check. I know a few members of staff have done that, so we definitely encourage people to do that. So I'm just double checking any more questions that have come through late. No. So I guess it's over to both of you now. We'll start with Matt. Is there any sort of last messages you've got for followers that you'd like to get over to people?
I think that the common theme through this is to not bury your head in the sand and to contact your energy supplier, and have that conversation. Tell us about what's going on in your lives, what you can afford. We focused on, I mentioned briefly, the priority service register. That's an important register to get on for various reasons. You might have seen in the news around National Grid and the possibility. I think it's a little bit of scaremongering of blackouts and things of that nature. But if that did happen and you're on the priority service register, you are protected, from power cuts, power outages. If there's the storms through the winter, getting on that PSR for health and well-being purposes is very important. So again, make sure you sign up either online or speak to your energy supplier about the PSR, the priority service register, and just really engage with your supplier. I think if you want to leave my email address, I'm always happy to help, whether you're an OVO customer or just want help and advice around the energy industry. It's matt.baker@ovo.com. Please drop me a line, and happy to try and help and give you some advice, or at least point you in the right direction for advice of what help you need. But yeah, the key to this is speak to your supplier through the winter. Don't sit in the cold. Stay warm. Stay safe, and learn a little bit about energy and energy efficiency. You can make a little bit of fun with families and stuff around energy efficiency as well. And if you haven't got a smart meter and you can have one, really encourage you to get a smart meter, because that brings it to life a little bit more, real time on where your energy is going in your home. Brilliant.
That's great, Matt. And we've actually had a sneaky question that's come in, and this might be one for you, Dan. It's around sort of, obviously we're seeing sort of people taking advantage of the energy crisis with lots of scams at the moment. Text messages, emails doing the rounds. What do people need to look out for?
You want to answer this, Max? I know we'd had a bit of a discussion. I know you like this area.
I've created a kind of and we might bring this to a session like this. Me and Danny were talking, called Friends Against Scams. So a few years ago, I became a dementia friend and did a lot of work with the Alzheimer's Society around dementia and the impacts of dementia and living with dementia. And an element of that was scams as well. And there's a really good initiative called Friends Against Scams. And with scams, it breaks it down into 4 areas: postal scams, there's telephone scams, doorstep scams, and online scams. And at the moment, these scammers, who are basically criminals, will prey on vulnerable customers. They'll prey on all customers and try and get people to respond to topical subjects like the £400 as an example, that they will pretend maybe through an email, a phone call, that they are your energy supplier, and to give bank details so we can pay you the 400, all things like that. And there's a range of subjects that these scammers and criminals will try. The key thing is that your energy supplier, and I know from an OVO perspective, we will never ask for bank details or anything like that over a letter or an email. There's details in emails, the from, if they're quoting reference number, things like that. There's lots of little things. Again, we can have a whole session on scams, which might be useful if there's interest, because everyone has to be very careful. We're only going to be sending vouchers out and lots of things, but just be very, very careful. And if in doubt, again, speak to your energy supplier to get clarification. Don't react because you think you're going to be getting £400 through a mechanism. I've explained how it's working with all energy suppliers. So, but that could be for anything. People knocking on your door, scams, and what these criminals do covers a range of subjects, which would be really interesting to go into for if there's interest.
Yeah, definitely. We have supported, the Only Matters team has supported a few tenants that unfortunately have been targeted by scammers. And I think, again, we can nick this back into the PSR, can't we? Like the password protection scheme, it's really important that people that set up passwords on their accounts and so on. So if it's an outbound call, so someone's ringing you and you don't know them, you can, and they start asking your name, date of birth, etc. Just withhold that information, ask them for your password, and if they confirm that that's right, then sort of proceed. But yeah, I definitely would welcome a full session on it, because I think it could potentially help a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. And the same with doorsteps, in particular. Just because someone's wearing a lanyard, don't think that they are part of their organisation. Close the door and then phone that company to say, have you got people who are going around doorsteps today? And Never feel under pressure. There's lots of hints and tips around how to manage, because they are criminals and they will try every way possible to get you to sign up to something or part with your money. So yeah, it's we can have a whole session on this to talk through, because there's some really important advice to give to make sure, not just in the energy sector, but wider.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that's brilliant, and just a huge thank you to both Matt and Dan for taking the time out to join us today. It's been a really interesting session. Lots of useful tips and advice there, and a great a lot of support available out there for people. So I know this is becoming a bit of a mantra now, isn't it? But please do get in touch with either Matt or Dan if you need any more support. They're there to help you guys. And just a big thank you to everyone who's put questions in and has joined us today. There's some useful links in the comment box for further support, and we'll add a couple more. So again, massive thank you to Dan, massive thank you to Matt, and thank you to everyone else. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.